I'm a member of the local chamber, and every year they go through and they do these series on things for businesses. So they'll have a session on tax, and they'll have a session on marketing and sales, and they do all this stuff. Well, guess what they added this year?
Cybersecurity.
They're doing a session on cybersecurity.
Are you doing it?
I am doing it. Because I went to them and I was like, how dare you not have a session on cybersecurity? That is an integral part of business these days. And they're like, you're right.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 464 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Cardin. What's up, Donna?
Oh, I don't know, David. I am thrilled to be finishing my day, even if it means we've got to talk about all this stuff.
So you went to, what is it, Biloxi, Mississippi?
Yeah, I was at the Gulf States Ambulatory Surgical Center conference. Spoke with them and had a great time with them. It was fun. They were like, hey, one guy says, like 2 sentences in, I remembered you from speaking with us before. And then he kind of paused. And I said, it's okay, you can say it. You realized it wasn't going to be as bad as you thought to hear about cybersecurity. And like everybody else busts out laughing. Yeah, that's what we thought. Yeah, that was it. It's not going to be as bad as I thought it was.
Yep, that is true. I had an attorney, I'm sorry, not an attorney, it was an accountant, came up to me last week and they said, they were mad about all the cybersecurity stuff after we had this conversation. He looks at me and he points his finger at, I didn't get into business to be doing cybersecurity. And I said, that's funny. I didn't get in business to do taxes.
Bam. What'd he say?
He was like, you got a good point. I said, yes, cybersecurity is a cost of doing business, just like taxes is the cost of doing business.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah, it is what it is, even though some people hate that. All right. Yeah. So I do want to give a shout out to those who listen to and support our little show here that we do each and every week. We appreciate it. Appreciate all the likes and shares and comments, and some of you send us messages and comment on the videos. We appreciate all that. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Especially when they're nice comments.
Yeah, they're usually nice. There are some that are, keyboard warrior comments.
Yeah. We move on.
Yeah, that's right. And for those of you who never listen to us, but yet you can help us grow our business, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody gets those emails, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. All righty. Well, let's dive in first to our 405D tip of the week.
Yeah, we're going to hop straight to that.
Yeah. So they dropped some new stuff last week.
Another quick shot.
Yeah, from their KOD, which I thought was cardinal demand, but it's not.
No, it is not. It is not in any way. Nay.
It is not.
It is not. And this one's access management. Treat all keys with care.
Mm-hmm.
Look at there.
Yeah, that's a tough one because, you go into these smaller organizations and they're like, everybody should have access to everything, right?
Yeah, you don't want that. Trust me, you do not.
Mm-mm.
You don't want that. Remember, one click is all it takes. And if you have access to everything, your click has access to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So just think about that. Yeah, yep. I don't want to be the one. I don't want to be. I don't want to be that one.
I think we should get you singing that song. That song, Just One Look, but we should change it to say Just One Click. Have you doing that?
Yeah, no.
Do one of those. What's the one? The jib jabs.
Oh yeah. We could create our own version of it.
Yeah.
We need to play our rap song again.
I know.
Hey,
Boyan, throw it in.
Help me with hip-hop. Let's get it right. Protect your patience. Day and night. Donna and David.
So anyway, head on over to 405d.hhs.gov and you can find all this information there, and you can get the newest KOD, Knowledge on Demand, with access management, and share that out. It's free training. I don't want to hear any of you complaining about we can't afford it. Or we don't have time even, because it's just little short, quick stuff. So send it out to everybody.
Yeah, it's just a quick, hey, did you know what this means? So, and why it matters.
Yeah. And if you're in IT, you should definitely be sending it out, because then when everybody complains because you're taking away all their admin access, maybe they'll know why.
It could be helpful.
It could be.
Speaking of free, how about low cost and no cost resources for rural hospitals?
Yeah.
From Microsoft and Google.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a commercial.
Yeah. However, one of those things that pops up and you're like, yeah, if it's too good to be true, I'm not clicking on that.
Yeah. It did. I was kind of like, really?
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a new program. There's several things that they're investing in, trying to find new ways to help rural hospitals. And that really is a major issue. When you got one hospital and there's not another one for 40, 50 miles away, even 20 miles away, it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And we need those. And so many of them are already struggling to have it go a step further with these cyber attacks and change healthcare and all those things. So to help them out, Microsoft is, I did not realize this number either, 1,800 to 2,100 rural hospitals, depending on how you identify them across the country. So several in each state.
Mm-hmm.
But part of this, Microsoft is for critical access and rural emergency hospitals, extending its nonprofit program to provide grants and up to 75% discount on security products optimized for smaller organizations. And then the larger rural hospitals, they're also eligible for Microsoft solutions. No. It's advanced security suite at no additional cost for 1 year. Then we'll yank it. But get us somewhere. They've also provide free cybersecurity assessments by qualified technology security providers and free training for frontline and IT staff at eligible hospitals throughout the country, and will extend security updates for Windows 10 to participating hospitals for 1 additional year at no cost. Now, that all sounds great, but let's make a very important point that a free cybersecurity assessment does not meet your HIPAA obligations for a security risk assessment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, it's very specific, and it can be an element of it, but it is not it. Noted. Google is going to provide endpoint security advice to rural hospitals at no cost, and nonprofit organizations at no cost, and eligible customers can get discounted pricing for communication and collaboration tools and security support, and a pool of funding to support software migration. And they're launching a pilot program with rural hospitals to develop a packaging of security capabilities that fit their unique needs. So I'm not really sure how all that'll pan out, but it's great that you got these big companies are stepping up. We need this. We need help, and the hospitals, by and large, those are your emergency go-tos.
Mm-hmm.
And we do need to handle them and keep them open and running in these rural environments. But I'm still waiting to see something significant to help the provider side, the private practices and those kind of things.
Yeah. Well, two things that jump out at me. One is these are just the tools. It's still not the people that need to operate the tools.
Right.
So I think that in and of itself is a bit problematic. Not that this is not a great gesture and it shouldn't be taken advantage of, but it is just the tools.
We're still talking about you have a hard time getting qualified staff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, when I, like, for example, for us in the MSP world, the actual licensing cost for the tools is not that much. It's everything else around it that costs so much. So, not that it's not, cost saving to get the tools free, but it's also, it could be a problem where you're like, okay, now we got all these tools. What do we do with them? Or we roll them out, but nobody's actually there looking at them and managing them. So,
it just does it. It just does it.
Yeah. What good is it? It's almost like, well, we got this security, but it's, nobody's really looking.
Well, it's that belief that, well, we've installed the technology, so now it's going to do it.
Yeah. It's just going to work. It's like today I sent out an email to a client and I said, we've blocked an unusual number of malicious email attempts at your organization. And I just want you to, if you will, send out a message to all your staff to say, be on the lookout, be diligent, because even though we have blocked 100% of them so far, there's always that one that could get through, and we need the user to be aware of that and don't think, oh, we got such great security that we don't have to worry about those things. No, you still need to worry about them.
Yeah. And but we have to do that about everything. Oh, well, I Googled it and this is the answer. Well, are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Did you, double check that is correct and that you are getting the right phone number when you call people for support?
Yeah.
It's the same problem, just at a different scale.
Well, that plays into my next concern about this, is that when they announced these things from Google and Microsoft, now me as a criminal, I'm like, great, this gives me another way to make contact with a hospital system. And it's something that they are familiar with or they are potentially looking for. And so now it becomes yet another attack vector that could be utilized.
Yeah, we're calling from Microsoft to install these new things. We're calling from Google to install these.
Aren't you aware?
Do not take that. That is not going to happen. Please do not do that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're aware of this new program? Click here. So that's always concerning, but it's not the fault of this program. I'm not saying this program is bad because of that. What I'm saying is the bad guys have the same access to information as you do. And they're going to look at this and go, how can we leverage this to benefit us? So, and you need to be aware of that. It's the same thing like when you find your information on the dark web. Okay, it's there. You can't stop it from being there, but you just need to be aware that it's there so it's not used against you. Yeah.
Don't beat myself with my own club. Don't beat me with my own club. Yeah. So, and speaking of, you need to be aware of all this stuff that's happening out there, because we know there's a boatload of data out there now from the UHG Change Healthcare cyber attack. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot being said. We've talked about for years a lot of these suggestions and discussions about how we can improve cybersecurity in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
But while most of these things are not new, they are getting a lot more backing than they ever did before.
Yeah, they are.
And it's like I said in my presentation in Biloxi, I was like, y'all need to understand that people from both sides of the aisle are signing letters together that say the same thing. This is huge. It is not anything unusual to have all of this stuff happen, but to have it happen with the volume, the urgency, and the people involved. Warner has worked for years. He's got multiple papers about this that he has published. And those things are not new, and most of them have been covered in his. But now we're getting him from different angles. And instead of saying, how can we improve it? It's like, who's going to pay for this big debacle?
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to go through. There's 3 different letters coming out of the Senate. 2 from the chairman of the Finance Committee, Wyden, and another one from 2 other senators, 2 ladies, both sides of the aisle. And I wanted to cover what is in these letters so that A, you're able to speak to this. If somebody says what's going to happen, what's happening, you'll have the knowledge, but also it's on your radar if something starts happening.
Mm-hmm.
So the most scathing one, though, where it was like, ow, ooh, zing, bang, boom.
Mm-hmm.
That was the letter to the FTC and SEC about the UHG cybersecurity issues. And we got excerpts from all of this to share with you. And so here, well, we'll just go through a couple of these first, and then we'll get to a big area that we've already talked about, how important it is. But the consequences of UHG's apparent decision to waive its MFA policy for servers running older software are now painfully clear.
Mm-hmm.
But UHG's leadership should have known long before the incident that this was a bad idea. Yeah. Another little thing here. Hackers gaining access to one remote access server should not result in a ransomware infection so serious that the company must rebuild its digital infrastructure from scratch.
Ouch.
And that's the one, why did you not have a hot site kind of plan or something you could spin up quickly as an alternative? Why was this there? I have so many whys, but clearly not the only one.
Yeah.
In addition to the company's cybersecurity failures, the company also clearly failed to plan for ransomware and to ensure that its digital infrastructure could be promptly restored in hours or days rather than weeks. So that was like about what we know about the situation. But this next bit, and go ahead, because you said, you've had conversations with folks, and this is not a tiny incident. This is not just an anomaly. This is a bigger deal. But I do like the way it's phrased. So you take that ball and run with it there, buddy. Yeah.
So this next part is really specifically talking about folks that are in the CISO role. So the CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. So it is one likely reason for UHG's negligence and the company's failure to adopt industry standard cyber defenses is that the company's top cybersecurity official appears to be unqualified for the job.
Ow.
Yeah. Stephen Martin, poor guy, they called him out. Stephen Martin, UHG's CISO, had not worked in a full-time cybersecurity role before he was elevated to the top cybersecurity position at UHG in June of 2023, after working in other roles at UHG and Change Healthcare. Although Mr. Martin has decades of experience in technology jobs, cybersecurity is a specialized field requiring specific expertise. I just stop there. I just stop there.
I mean, we've had this discussion so many times. They're not the same.
No.
But then they did this line though.
Yeah. Just as a heart surgeon should not be hired to perform brain surgery, the head of cybersecurity for the largest healthcare company in the world should not be someone's first cybersecurity job.
I can't say that's wrong. It's not wrong.
No, but you know how it is. It's even at the top, people often get picked because it's the people that are making those decisions often don't understand the difference between cybersecurity and IT.
Yeah, and the people taking the jobs may or may not understand it. And they did say it's unfair to scapegoat him. There's a lack of prior experience in cybersecurity, so it wouldn't be fair to scapegoat him. And they go on to say, who should we blame?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, here they put instead, UHG CEO and the company's board of directors should be held responsible for elevating someone without the necessary experience to such an important role in the company, as well as for the company's failure to adopt basic cyber defenses.
Mm-hmm. And then they go back into that zinger from the hearings on who on your board has cybersecurity expertise.
Yeah. So one likely explanation for this board level oversight failure is that none of the board members have any meaningful cybersecurity expertise. So a couple things I take from that. Number one, you probably should have somebody with some meaningful cybersecurity expertise on your board.
Yeah.
Probably no matter what size of organization you are, or even what type of organization these days, you probably should have somebody. But secondly, if you're a CISO in healthcare, dude, you better pay attention.
Yeah. Well, it's like I told you, I'm out. Cause this is, it's going to be a focus no matter how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are plenty of qualified CISOs. I mean, absolutely plenty of qualified ones that are doing the job.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wouldn't say plenty because I'm sure they need more qualified ones. It gets back to who's going to do the work. And that's a bigger part of the problem. But companies this big should know the difference that IT people and cybersecurity people is not the same skill set.
Yep.
I mean, there's no way I would take a job like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my skill set. Now, I hang out with them.
But at the CISO level, I mean, I've talked with CISOs before, and they don't know how to do the work of like the technology work. Like you can't give them, and I'm talking broadly, obviously, but you can't give them a network and a server and go tell them to go set all that stuff up. Most of these people don't do that type of work. They know how to do the executive side, and they know how to do the project management side and all that kind of stuff. So I get that. And it very well could be something similar here where, yes, cybersecurity is very specialized, but the CISO is probably not doing cybersecurity work, but he should understand how the pieces fit together, and he should have people that are on his team that can inform him as to what he needs to be looking out for and making the proper decisions based on his understanding of cybersecurity. I don't know. I agree with everybody else here that are saying you can't throw this guy under the bus. I get it, but I don't know. I'm sure he's not the one that made, well, I'm not sure, but I would assume that he's not the one that made the final decision to pull the plug on MFA. I don't know. Did he?
Well, they didn't pull the plug. They just never turned it on in these specific old legacy systems and didn't make replacing them due to that problem a priority.
Right.
And so I think a lot of it also is with that lack of experience, because part of the job of somebody at that level is to allocate funding and request funding and, be the champion of your department and your, that every need is setting those priorities and being the champion of it and knowing where to do it. That's what you want that person to do. Yeah.
Well, if I'm reading this right, though, he just started the job in June of last year, and this happened in February, right? So, I mean, he's been in the job for what, 6 months, 7 months?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
yeah. Hadn't even gotten your hands
I was
around
going
it,
to say,
probably.
Yeah, he probably didn't even know there were old servers that didn't have MFA turned on yet. I don't know.
Yeah. But see, that's the stuff you're wanting somebody to float to the top. And I'm looking for somebody that's going to go tell me the dirty, right? Tell me where the bodies are buried and everybody knows about it in this department and nobody wants to hear about it outside it.
Yeah, because there's somebody somewhere that's like, I've been told them 15 times about this and nobody listens. Somebody.
Yeah. Somebody knew.
Yeah, it's always the case.
Always. I'm sure there's somebody new. And it is a major problem. And what they're doing in this letter is saying, look, you held SolarWinds leadership responsible.
Mm-hmm.
You have said that large publicly traded companies owe it to their investors as well as the community that they treat cybersecurity with the proper importance, and then couple that with healthcare and see that there's no one at the upper echelons who truly had the qualifications to make it a priority.
Right.
I guess is the way to say it. So there was a Recorded Future had a really good article, but their headline was United Health leaders should be held responsible for installing inexperienced CISO. I mean, that's the net. And so that letter is going off on all these things and basically saying you need a deep investigation and you need to hold somebody accountable for what has occurred here.
I don't know. I just go back to the whole thing of, sure, he was inexperienced, but it's not like he'd been there 3 years.
Right.
So,
well, it's not him. And they're saying, don't hold him, I don't remember the guy's name, and I don't want to remember it.
Because I mean, I don't know that he holds any blame. And honestly, he might be an inexperienced CISO, but is that what caused this? I mean, it's like, I feel like they're looking at the wrong thing.
Yeah, well, they're just saying that it was clearly not a priority.
Well, yeah. If they're looking for evidence to say this is yet another thing to point to say you weren't taking cybersecurity seriously, I could see that.
Yeah. And that's really what they're saying is that, I think it mentioned Drizzly, SolarWinds, and one other case where the FTC, SEC regulators were involved saying, you're essentially playing loosey-goosey with one of the most important things that you can do. And then you add to it, it's a healthcare entity. And that's why they're really bringing up this urgency, I believe, of why would you have in an industry that is so critical, have no one that's worried about cybersecurity when we're also one of the top attacked, repeatedly been told that. You can't work in this world and not know healthcare's under attack.
You know the answer, right? The answer is because we've always done it that way, Donna.
Okay, so we have that letter, and then we have a letter that went to HHS following that one. And so they're approaching this from multiple angles, right? So you got this, multiple fronts. That's the word I was looking for. So we've got the one that's saying, look, this company has acted recklessly, and it has created problems for the sector, our security, national security from a healthcare standpoint, our ability to operate the entire sector, as well as the investors. Because we got to also throw that in there, and that's how they got to the FTC and the SEC. But when you go to HHS, it's a different discussion. Because they're like, okay, you're in charge of these people. And it was interesting where that letter was like, you're not taking this seriously. This letter was, you've been too nice. I mean, this is essentially what it was, or it sounded like that. It is clear that HHS' current approach to healthcare cybersecurity, which is self-regulation and voluntary best practices, is woefully inadequate and has left the healthcare system vulnerable to criminals and foreign government hackers. HHS must follow the lead of other federal regulators in mandating cybersecurity best practices necessary to protect the healthcare sector from further devastating, easily preventable cyber attacks. To its credit, HHS announced last year that it planned to update the cybersecurity regulations for the healthcare sector, which HHS has not meaningfully updated since 2003.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew this. And it's not like we haven't, how many times have we talked about the fact that everybody that runs around talking about 1.5 million,
Mm-hmm.
a busy year was 20 enforcement actions
Yeah.
in the entire sector.
Mm-hmm.
Millions of companies, thousands of complaints, hundreds of data breaches coming in, and we're going to get, 20. So the flip side of that, though, is understanding that in a lot, I'm not going to say all of healthcare, but particularly on the provider side, in many of the scenarios in the small and medium market, the margins are so tiny
Mm-hmm.
that, they're trying to look at it and say, we want you to invest in better care. And that should include cybersecurity. And we're doing everything we can to foster compliance, not bringing the hammer down.
Right.
But that ain't been working.
Mm-mm. No.
So there were several specific things that were brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And I had not heard this term, and maybe I have and don't recall it, but systemically important entities, and they call them SIEs,
Yeah.
which include clearinghouses like UHG and large health systems like Ascension, which was also suffering recently. That HHS should require minimum mandatory technical safeguards for SIEs and reinforce these standards and ensure broad adoption by requiring entities that participate in the Medicare program to meet these requirements.
Yeah.
Okay. I ain't got no problem with that. But when I sent this to you, you caught this next session and you were like, whoa.
Yeah.
This one, and I'm like, it kind of blew by me because I was looking at the others, and then I went back and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So,
I read it. I was like, what the crap? Yeah. So it says HHS should require SIEs to meet resiliency requirements so they're able to get back up and running quickly if they're infected with ransomware. They must be capable of rebuilding their information technology infrastructure from scratch within 48 to 72 hours.
Ow.
I'm like, dude, that don't even happen on a good day without ransomware.
Yeah, well, it gets back to having that hot spot, a hot site, what we used to call a hot site. I don't know what they call it now.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's dual processing.
If you called me and said, I need you to set up a new network for me, and let's just say you got 5 computers. That's small. I need 5 computers and network, and I need you to have that set up and done in 72 hours. I'd be like, yeah, right.
Well, and they did discuss how that they had, instead of switching to cloud infrastructure or a hybrid cloud infrastructure, they were still running on their self-maintained servers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like I said, you got to start negotiations somewhere. And 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks ain't cutting it.
Yeah.
48 hours is pretty tough. But I mean, I agree with you that if they already have the infrastructure in place and they already have the plans in place, switching from one infrastructure that's down to another one, a hot site, whatever you want to call it, that is definitely doable within 48 to 72 hours. But you've got to have that already in place, and you hopefully have tested it multiple times. But yeah, that's the only way you can do it. You can't just come up and say, let's go buy some new things and get them all stood up in 72 hours. That's not likely.
Well, and it actually says that HHS should stress test these companies to prove they can do these.
But they can't even audit. How are they going to stress test?
I know. But hey, you got to start somewhere. Go far to the other side.
I think HHS is going to have to outsource this to the private sector somehow.
Well, and they did that before. I mean, when they did the audits before, they outsourced a bunch of it to KPMG. I mean, the original audits, which is the next thing of conduct the periodic cybersecurity audits of covered entities and business associates. That's everybody, not just the SIEs. Mm-hmm. And it literally says, I urge HHS instead to prioritize audits of SIEs, even if those organizations were not previously subject to the HHS audits. And it's talking about where they brought up that they are evaluating how they did the audits before. Like they're already figuring that out. And it says, you know, we know you're already starting down this path, but you should have already been there. And, you know, at least somebody went, whew, at least we'd already announced that.
Yeah.
You know, but still, it's, you know, that too little too late. For this scenario, and we've got to prevent another one. And there's so many places that are that we are vulnerable, mostly due to, and what happened here is consolidation. Yeah, you know, these companies were consolidated, and that consolidation is across the board. It's happening everywhere, whether you're talking about meat or cereal or telecom or healthcare. Doesn't matter. And, you know, eventually that becomes a problem. And I think that's what we're really starting to look at here. And that's what a lot of people are questioning.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the growing pains of making cybersecurity part of a normal business expense. Just like I said in the very beginning, it's like used to, it was a nice to have, and now it's a must have. You can't run a business unless you're doing bookkeeping and taxes and all that. You have to do it. And cybersecurity is no different now, but we are not yet grasping that concept fully and implementing that everywhere.
Well, we still have people that think that cybersecurity means an antivirus program.
Exactly.
I mean, let's start there. That is wrong. Wrong. Yeah.
I mean, it's just in basic. I'm a member of the local chamber, and every year they go through and they do these series on things for businesses. So they'll have a session on tax, and they'll have a session on marketing and sales, and they do all this stuff. Well, guess what they added this year?
Cybersecurity.
They're doing a session on cybersecurity.
Are you doing it?
I am doing it because I went to them and I was like, how dare you not have a session on cybersecurity? That is an integral part of business these days. And they're like, you're right.
But it's because you participate on the board.
Yeah.
You know, but imagine look what happened when no one on the board cared about it. You know, that's exactly what they're saying here.
Yeah.
So, but they did point out HHS should provide technical assistance on cybersecurity to healthcare providers. And then went on to point out, and this is something that goes back to, I know Warner's paper discussed this. I know we've heard these discussions many times. But the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, known as CMS, quality improvement organizations, and Medicare Learning Network programs are vital tools at HHS's disposal for improving the effectiveness, efficiency, and quality of healthcare services delivered to Medicare beneficiaries. HHS should leverage these programs to provide cybersecurity technical assistance and guidance to providers, particularly those with low resources. Finally, boom. You know, we got there. Boom. And we've seen that discussed. I mean, no matter how you look at it, Medicare is the largest insurance provider in the country. And they're saying, look, use that tool. You don't have a choice. use that tool. But on the flip side of that, you see a lot of these smaller providers just moving completely away from doing any kind of insurance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've got a couple of clients that way. They're just direct primary care providers, and they don't file insurance.
Mm-mm. Well, and I'm so many of them, and I just throw up my hands if I really want to go see a provider. Many times they're not going to be covered under my insurance. So, which, you know, I have to give part of a kidney to buy it every month as a single, you know, business owner, small business owner. But anyway, so I was happy to see that it's focus on providing to those with low resources and not just the rural hospitals, which I'm not saying don't do those things, but you got to include some of the other folks too, because they need help. And it's not just help me buy an antivirus program.
Yeah.
All right. So the closing paragraph, though, it was short, sweet, to the point. And yeah, I mean, I think it sums up what was said in both of the letters. But the current epidemic of successful cyber attacks, and I think that is a key part of the statement there. It's an epidemic. Back to, we know it's happening. Everybody should know that this is really a problem. And there is an epidemic of successful ones, not just ongoing attacks like your client with the, hey, something's happening, you should pay attention. You know, be extra nervous.
Extra nervous.
No, I'm always nervous. It's like every click. Should I really? Anyway, against the healthcare sector, it is a direct result of HHS's failure to appropriately regulate and oversee this industry, harming patients, providers, and our national security. I urge HHS to use all of its authorities to protect U.S. healthcare providers and patients from cybersecurity risks. So, I mean, it's like, boom, they've been nice. Y'all been too nice. So, to FTC and SEC, it's like, go get them too. And to HHS is like, you've been too nice. See, that's it. Go get them too. And then I told you there were 3 letters. And the third one, and, you know, I saw somebody mention this in a discussion or somewhere, and the 60-day clock ran out. We all know when it started.
Yeah.
You know, we know. And so the you need to notify everybody hasn't happened.
Uh-oh.
Where you're supposed to say, you know, well, I guess HHS has been notified. And the media has been notified.
Yeah, you've already done half of it.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like, everybody knows by now, we don't need to send out letters.
Yeah, it was all of you. It's all yuns. All yuns, as my grandmother would say. All yuns. All yuns. The vast majority of people in America, your data has been breached.
Yeah.
And, you know, at least a third is what they're estimating. So well over 100 million people.
Yeah, which scares me because we've always said the initial estimates are drastically underreported.
Yep. So we're I don't know. It's not going to be pretty. Unless no, there's no unless. It's not going to be pretty.
I was going to say, I don't know how you're going to put lipstick on that pig, but I'm waiting to hear it.
No, I tried, and we just know it's bad. But as this letter points out, as of June 6th, UHG continues to be in violation of HIPAA, which requires covered entities, which they are one, to notify individuals of a known or suspected data breach within 60 days of discovering the breach. Individuals. That'd be me and you. UHG must also formally notify impacted business partners, including healthcare providers, in accordance with HIPAA and state law. So that was a letter that was pointing out, y'all screwing up here too.
So I think they're going to come up. This is just pure speculation. They're going to come up and say, we notified the providers within 60 days. Now they've got 60 days to notify the patients. I'm just wondering if somebody's going to pull that card.
Well, that would be really stupid.
But you've heard it before.
But, I mean, at this point, UHG's like, yeah, just add it to the list. Yeah, just put that on my tab. Just put it on my tab.
Yeah, it was a couple million more. Who cares?
Yeah, they don't care. It's not really different to them. It's not impacting them in any way.
Didn't they just have an additional, what was it, $8 billion in additional revenue?
Yeah, some ridiculous, $8.7 billion or something like that. But anyway, we can end on there. There's another article that I thought was really timely in the Med City News that it was the title made me go, only 3?
Yeah.
It's by Katie Adams in Med City News, just recent here. And it said, these 3 things must change for hospital cybersecurity to improve.
Yeah, I could think of a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what 3?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. And basically it does tie back to all of this. It's all healthcare employees need cybersecurity training.
Heard that a million times.
We led with that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Cybersecurity.
It's the reason why we're here.
Yeah. Number 2, the government must establish minimum cybersecurity standards. Been talking about this. The CPGs, they're going to need to be the minimums.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And healthcare organizations should collaborate to address shared vulnerabilities. Now, that one becomes a little bit more tricky, but, it gets back to, you got to defeat all of us, defeat one of us, and that, none of us independently are as, going to be as smart as all of us together.
Yeah.
And it's a shared responsibility that has to be dealt with across the board. And, these letters, they're great, and it's good to see the attention, but what's going to come along and fizzle this attention out before anything happens? I don't know.
I don't either, because when you look at, like, one of the things I think it needs is even more teeth, but you're caught between a rock and a hard place, because you take, for example, SEC. If the SEC steps in and says, okay, Mr. Business, you violated SEC, we're going to shut you down, it doesn't impact healthcare. So if you come into an area, you're like, well, you're not following HIPAA or whatever our minimum cybersecurity standards are, you failed, we're going to shut your practice down until you get it right. Well, now you've impacted healthcare for the entire region. You can't do it. So it's very different.
But you have to do that if they were not following infection protocols. And so the question becomes, where is that line of cyber safety and patient safety go together? And where is it that you're being as reckless as not following infection protocols?
Yeah.
It's going to be tricky.
It is going to be tricky. It's the benefit of many versus the benefit of one. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer, but I don't have to, because I'm just a podcaster.
It's gonna be an interesting next 12 months at least.
Oh yeah.
As to how this we even talked about from the beginning when we were hearing of this attack that this will take a year or more to kind of crawl out from the fallout. Boom!
Which is the title of this episode. All right, yeah. Shout out to all you Fallout 4 people. All right. That is our show for today. Thanks for listening, and be sure to share this out because it was an amazing show today. And be sure to give us a rating and review. We appreciate it. Help us spread the word. We love you guys. We just want some love back. Just remember, for Donna and myself, HIPAA's not about compliance. It's about patient care.
Help me with hip-hop. Let's get it right. Protect your patients day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with hip-hop. Let's get it right.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.